Hey, we are talking about Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 4, Watcher. We are going to give our spoiler free reviews of the episode and then get into our spoiler breakdown of the episode, starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Social. I'm Nathan.
I'm Colin.
So, the spoiler-free log line provided by Paramount for this episode is, with time running out to save the future, Picard takes matters into his own hands and seeks out an old friend for help. Meanwhile, Rios ends up on the wrong side of the law and Jurati makes a deal with the Borg Queen. So, Colin, what did you think of this episode?
I think overall it was a very solid episode. There was some things that you were answered in in last week's episode. They kind of advanced the story a little bit, but it wasn't kind of satisfactory to a point where there's some side of conclusion to the story. But they were getting to it, but they were not quite there yet. I think that they made some choices here which were very interesting in terms of what some of the characters were doing. And some of the characters were, of course, sidelined because of where they are in terms of locations and things like that. But I think overall it was more of a bridge episode. So you had to see kind of what happens next week to see what's going on. There wasn't that many fireworks, I would say, comparatively speaking to last week and the previous weeks. Kind of the drama and all that was a little bit missing. And then also another character that appeared earlier in the season came back for like a very brief appearance, but it seemed as though there was really not much there, and kind of left some threads that were open for interpretation and things like that. So overall, I would say pretty solid, but definitely not as dramatic as, say, the other the first three episodes that we've seen so far.
Okay. Conjure, what do you think?
Yeah, kind of the same. I mean, I enjoyed the episode. Not a lot of drama. I did enjoy the scenes between Seven and Rafi, right? I think sort of gave them, some moments to connect throughout the episode, and some comedy. They were a little lighthearted. But yeah, you just kind of left, I think, really waiting to see where the story is going to continue for next week, because it doesn't, and that the relationship between Agnes and the Borg Queen, I think, is becoming a little bit more concerning, right? But yeah, so looking forward to next week. But yeah, and this sort of leaves you hanging in the balance.
So, so I it's funny. I spent a lot of today being very angry about this episode.
Gosh.
Huh?
Our messages.
Yes, we did.
So,
We saw your messages. Yeah.
Like, because I do the pre-production for the episodes, I calm down because I have to do research before we start. Before we do go live, and I'm glad that the reason that I was upset was because I wasn't thinking through the thing, and not because the writers weren't thinking through something. So
Yeah.
I will say that this episode is okay. The one thing that I was really upset about is not the only thing I was annoyed about with this episode. It just was the most egregious thing that was. It was annoying me so much that I pulled clips, and I actually have the clip. And even though the issue that I thought was there isn't there anymore, I'll play it a little bit later when we get into the spoiler portion of the conversation, to explain where I went wrong, and also probably where a lot of other people are going to go wrong. But I'm on balance, I'm happy that I was wrong, because if I wasn't wrong, then I would have had to be like on the side of the toxic fanboys online. So I'm glad that that's not the case. So it was a good episode. Actually, without the glaring continuity issue that I thought was there, it's actually a little bit better than the previous episode, except for in one portion, and that was with the interaction with, not necessarily the interaction with Seven and Rafi, but what they did, what they had to do in this episode. And I had some issues with that, which dinged the episode for me. Now that I've re-examined the episode without the continuity issue that kind of blew a hole through the episode and made me hate it in the morning. So yeah, that's what I think. I think it's a good episode. It's actually better than the previous episode, and we will discuss the specifics of what was alluded to in the log line about Picard's seeking out an old friend when we get into the spoiler portion of the conversation.
Right.
All right. So if you guys don't have anything else, we can jump into spoilers. But I will say, if you're enjoying the conversation, please comment down below to join the conversation, and like and follow. Or if you're on YouTube, subscribe. It really helps the channel out. And with that, spoilers ahead. Okay, so where do you guys want to start?
I think we need to get to your anger.
Do you want to get
anger?
The continuity out? Yeah, let's get that out of the way.
I like I said, I spent a lot of this today annoyed because like I memorized most of the episodes of TNG, so. Picard has been back in time a lot of times, and specifically he went back in time during the TNG show, not in the movie. He went back to 1893, where he connected with Guinan.
Yep.
And there was a whole episode. It wasn't a one-off episode either. It was a two-parter, because that's how the end of season 5 ended and the beginning of season 6 started. It's called Time's Arrow. So Mark Twain is in that episode. There are a lot of scenes between Guinan and Picard in the past and in the future. There weren't. If you think back, she had a very substantive impact on the show, but you know, Whoopi Goldberg was also being a movie star, so she wasn't on it a lot. So this is one of the bigger Guinan episodes. So the reason that I was upset is because it seems like they completely ignored this entire episode when they wrote this episode, and that's not the case. So that's not the case. There are time things going on for why what we see in this episode happens in this episode. So I don't know if we're gonna get pushed off of YouTube because I didn't get a chance to actually test this clip, but I will try to play this clip. 1 second, let me get it. I'm not sure if you guys can hear it.
Yeah.
No, I can't hear anything.
All right, let me try this again. All right, let me try that one more time.
Yeah, but
yeah, you guys can talk while I try to set this up again.
Yeah, because I went back when you sent the message. I was like, okay, let me watch these episodes, and I was like, what?
Did you watch the episodes?
I did, because I mean, it's like I had the time today. I was like, let me just watch, and then I started with season 6 episode 1. I was like, wait, it's a two-parter. Let me just watch both parts, right? Just being very intelligent today. But I was like, yeah, what's the problem? But because I mean, the past has been altered, so that future never happened.
And that's what I wasn't thinking. So that's what I wasn't thinking through. So like, we're talking about time travel, which doesn't exist, and you talk to different physicists, they'll say it never will exist. But depending on the science fiction that we're talking about, the ripple events that only happen after the event changes, and that was what I was thinking in my head, that the past changed after in 2024. But the way that they are writing the episode,
Right.
they're writing it so that even if it's in her future, it has already happened. So it's going to affect the future that Picard is in. So he can't go back and beat her. So that's why that makes sense, I guess. Which I'm okay. I'm okay. It's convoluted, but I'm okay with that answer, because I was expecting a completely different conversation, because for the other thing is that expectation, right? Because for weeks I was like, oh, he's going back to 2024. The last time he went back around this time, he talked to Guinan, and I for the last couple of weeks my expectation was, oh, they're just going to catch up, and it's like, oh, you're back again, basically, is what I was expecting that conversation to be.
Right.
And why are you back so or why are you back so soon? Because it was only what is it? It was about 100 years, right?
Less than 100 years.
Less than 100 years from the last time she saw him. So that was my expectation, right? But as you said, the timeline was changed, and the way that they're writing the time travel rules in this episode, or in this, I'm not even sure if it's consistent the way that they write it throughout all of Star Trek, but I'll go with it for how they're writing it this season. Because the future was changed, it's the past isn't the past has changed as well, because her interaction with him in the past is contingent upon the future being intact. So
Right.
yeah, let me see. Output. All right.
Yeah.
What did you think of the?
Yeah, she did. She
the
did a good
actress,
job. That was part of the reason I was
played
upset, right? Because it was making
James?
me angry that the conversation that was happening wasn't the conversation that I wanted to happen. Because part of the reason I was upset is because she was doing a really good job acting, right? And I was upset that they put her in this position. There's this young actress in this position that people are going to be mad at her and stuff like that. That's part of the reason I was upset as well, because she was doing a good job, and I understand. And even them casting her instead of trying to spend a whole lot of money and doing de-aging things on Whoopi Goldberg was fine for me, because all that stuff wasn't available to Hollywood until, like, I don't know, 5 to 6 years ago. So this is how they always did people in the past. They always recast to get a younger version. And there's an episode with Guinan as a child, and they of course had to cast a child. So that wasn't my problem. My problem was that, like I said, the conversation that I was expecting wasn't the conversation that actually happened. So yeah.
So it's based on the fact that you knew some content from TNG, and it wasn't, the continuity was off because of that. But then it kind of been over your course of the day, you kind of like justified it by saying, oh well, they kind of went around this in some way.
Right. I mean, like I said, I had to do research to do the pre-production for the episode. So the showrunner explained online what was going on, because it didn't, like I said, for weeks I was expecting the conversation with Guinan and him to go a certain way, but I wasn't thinking about the time travel rules that they decided to put in place. And I didn't know the time travel rules that they decided to put in place until he explained the time travel rules that they decided to put in place. Because, like I said, it's arbitrary, because time travel doesn't exist. And the way time travel is handled in certain instances, nothing happens to the future until the actual event happens. But whatever. There's a way that you could explain it where both of the universes exist until the event happens, sort of like Schrodinger's cat or something like that. But that's not what they're going with. They're going with, there's only one path, because it was changed, which is fine.
Mm.
As long as it's
Yeah.
explainable, I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of interesting in that last week, I had such a huge problem with the storyline of Rios,
Yeah.
and we were going back and forth about it. But then this week, I'm like, oh, it wasn't too bad. Yes, Guinan, they casted a younger version of Guinan, which is fine, totally fine.
Yeah.
I thought the episode was pretty cool overall. But then, when you sent that message, I was like, oh, Nathan really. He really didn't like this. And it's like, I'm going to stop watching this. I'm like, whoa, this is just a complete 180. And then I'm like completely turned the other way because I'm like, okay, I'm getting into this. Okay, I can see what type of progress they're trying to make. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. And then, Nathan on the other hand, you're like, oh, no, this is totally wrong. And then I'm like the complete opposite of where I was last week. It's so interesting.
I will say that I have been not sleeping over the last couple of days because I've been doing a lot of other work. So maybe that's also why I missed it. But yeah, I was for half of this day dreading the fact that I was not dreading the fact, but like because I don't mind being honest. It was like I'm gonna have to say that this episode is hot garbage, and it's like, I try to like things. My whole I was starting to write the speech in my head. It's like I try to like things. I don't go into things negatively, but this episode is hot garbage. And this,
no.
This is why. No, but yeah.
Oh boy.
I was prepared to talk you down. I was like, I don't know what you hated, but
I just find it very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Where I was like, it's like you're trying last week you're trying to talk me off the cliff, and then now like today it's like we're trying to talk you off the cliff. It's interesting.
I was
exactly.
mad. I'm serious. I was really mad. It distracted me so much that I had to, like I said, go pull the clips. So to make my argument tonight, so that I could do other work today, other work today.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I feel that. Yeah, no, I get it. But I think it also shows. I mean, I think it's great on the part of the writers, right, to still make it like as a fan you have expectations, and that to still be surprised and still be sort of engaged, right? Because you could easily sort of be turned off if it just feels like a rewrite of TNG as opposed to sort of carving
sort
out
of lane,
their faith, right? Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I like seeing them recast a young Guinan, because I too was like, well, they didn't de-age Q, John Delancey, right?
I mean, they did for like a second.
Well, I mean, not really matching, but right, they didn't do anything, right? And I'm like, well, they could technically do the same with Whoopi, since they because she sort of alluded to just matching, like making humans feel comfortable and aging with them. So they could have done that. But I think it's great that they sort of brought a new person into the Star Trek family, right? Maybe we'll see her, the same actress, trying to look for her name.
Yeah, it's in the notes showing today.
Yeah, so maybe we'll see her again. But I think it's sort of like a nice way of bringing somebody new, like same character but new face into
it's very interesting to kind of see because we just, I think it was Sonequa Martin Green's birthday, and we did an appreciation post. We did one last year, we did one this year, and we just to kind of see the reactions from people is fascinating, because it's like there's definitely a divide in terms of generationally. There's a divide between older Star Trek fans and then the newer ones that are kind of more open-minded and more embracing, and it's just interesting to me, and then also there's also the toxic fanboys that you alluded to, Nathan, that are out there, that can't stand any of it because maybe they think of it as too woke or that it's too progressive in some ways. But I just feel as though it's becoming more and more of a complicated picture than what I kind of see as though it's like there's a lot of complexities that are involved in terms of the older generation fans, fans of TNG, fans of DS9, and the newer fans of, say, Picard and Discovery and all the other parts. Like I said a couple of episodes ago, I was speaking with another Star Trek fan, and for him, it was a slog for him to get through Discovery, and then also. But at the same time, he really appreciated TNG. He was like a huge TNG DS9 fan, and they were I think they're more kind of the OG fans, even though he's like around my age. But it's just it's just interesting to kind of see those different dynamics.
Yeah. I guess before we move on to other parts of this episode, did anyone else? Do you want to talk about anything else about the Guinan Picard interaction, or? I mean, because like I said, I think I think it's fine. I think the actress actually did a pretty good job. She definitely conveyed her disgust with humanity and her I think, and I think that yes. As she said, I've been on this planet longer than you have, and probably longer. And she could have probably said longer than you could be on this planet. I don't know. So like, I thought it was good. I think that now that I'm okay with the episode, I'm looking forward. They kind of hint at the fact that she might come back. Which would be good to see her as well. So yeah.
She has some really strong language about like the current state of affairs and stuff like that. That was really biting and poignant on her, in terms of her delivery, in terms of her performance was really, really great. I just think that Picard is kind of like, if you ever watch Days of Future Past from X-Men, it was kind of like he's more of the, Charlie Xavier being hopeful and optimistic about humanity, and then she's like the more cynical and just like downtrodden and just like this is just really, really how we are, in our current state of affairs. In reality, here we are in 2022. So it's really fascinating to kind of see that again, that type of optimism. And how he's like, it's okay, you have to be patient about it, whereas she's seeing it as though it's like everything's falling apart.
Yeah.
Right. But she's living through it, right? Whereas he would have, except for his like brief dalliances in the past,
history books,
he's learned about it through, reading history books, right? And I think that gives you a very different perspective. Like, he knows we come out better on the other side. But when you're going through it, I think it's really hard to envision that. And I think it's sort of just really timely where we, like, all of the crap that we are living through collectively right now. I think it is really hard to see how things get better, like if they improve, how they improve, right, without a lot of people not making it either. So so I think it's just probably just a really thoughtful episode in that regard.
Better well done than last week's when I had a problem with it. This was much more kind of in my wheelhouse and more relevant to me.
I will say that although all the continuity issues, my major continuity issue was resolved, him being reluctant to tell her his name seemed weird after going with the time travel rules that they're talking about, because when he changes, assuming his mission is successful, he will erase this whole incident, in which case her knowing his name doesn't mean anything or doesn't matter. So like I'm not sure why he was so cagey. I'm not sure why he was so cagey. It was a little weird if they're going with, okay, he doesn't know you. Like, even if they're in either instance, if he did meet her back in 1893, she would have known him already, or if she didn't, this is going to be erased, assuming their mission is successful. So
one other thing before we move on is just when he did say his name, she had this kind of funny look, and then she said, "Oh my gosh, that's him, and then come with me. So where was that coming from? That's something that was kind of weird.
I don't know. So they did add some more lore in this episode, and I have that in the notes as well. So she gets sick, and they created this new thing where Alorians get sick when there's a change in the timeline. Now, we saw in yesterday's Enterprise that Guinan didn't necessarily get sick, but she did seem off. Like she seemed bothered the entire episode.
Yes.
Now maybe they're retconning that to say that she was sick, but she wasn't. You didn't see her like retching. Maybe with 400 years of more experience, she knows how to handle those the physical implications of the sickness a little bit better. So they're kind of retconning a little bit yesterday's Enterprise, but not too much. I think what they were trying to allude to there, F mentioning the conversation that he had with Guinan in an alternate universe made her sick. Then mentioning his name would probably have a similar effect on her, because she would have said Picard or heard Picard thousands of times throughout her other life in the other universe, right? So that's probably why it gave her a little bit of pause.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the rest of this episode, the episode actually starts with, I think, Jurati and Picard on the ship, and all that stuff is actually pretty good, because the ship is repairing itself. The Borg Queen is in there, and then they go to the chateau, which is apparently abandoned during this time of Earth history, because the Picards went to England during World War II, and apparently it was abandoned for 100 years or so. So they're doing a couple of things there. They're explaining why they have English accents, I guess, because he said it's going to be abandoned for several hundred years in the future until they come back. So I guess that explains why, because they also show him as a little boy, and he's below the age where you wouldn't have you keep an accent, because if you move from a place before you're 11 or 12, you keep the accent of the place, but he seems younger than that, so he shouldn't still have an English accent. A British accent, but whatever. They tried. But I appreciated those scenes were nice for the flashbacks, but they're also nice for the interaction with him and Jurati. He realizes that she subliminally was telling herself the date that they need to act, which is the 15th.
15th,
yeah, because they landed on the 12th. So those things were actually pretty good. And all the stuff with Jurati and the Borg Queen was also good on the ship. She definitely. So I think 2 weeks ago we theorized that she was going to have to be on the ship with the Borg Queen. There was already some looks at her even before the Borg Queen realized how intelligent she was. There's definitely going to be some assimilation happening with her and the Borg Queen, because she's goading her. She said, you liked it. Basically, you liked it. You want it to happen again. Basically.
But she keeps pulling herself out. She keeps kind of escaping that type of what's it called?
Ensnarement or
whatever
connection.
Yeah, whatever type of connection that the Borg Queen is trying to have with her. She keeps kind of like having this kind of snarky remark at the end. It's like, oh yeah, you don't have control of me yet. Like, she want to make her feel as though she's under her control, but it's really not.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if it's going to be something where she's almost at the line of, and then she's gonna pull the rug out from under her and say, made you look, I really am not I'm not really under assimilation of you. So I think it's going to be some type of big reveal where, you think that she is, but she's really going to be not, because they've been dropping hints like this over the last couple of episodes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to watch that space. It's probably the most interesting part of the episode to me. Except for, like I said, the stuff in the chateau was also pretty cool. The part that I didn't, or I had a little bit of an issue with, it's like it's the interaction between Seven and Rafi I liked in general, except for like in my mind she's like Rafi's like at 11 and she probably should be at 8 for me, but it's been a week for me since Eleanor died, and I guess it's only been a couple hours for her, so that's why she's still at 11. She's but yeah, she was super aggro the entire almost the entire episode. So but I like the small interactions with them and their closeness in Seven trying to console her and reason with her in certain situations. What I did not like is that they keep talking about butterflies and they had a high-speed chase down the highway in a cop car. I mean, I don't understand what that was about. Like, why are they drawing so much attention to themselves? What I mean, at the end of the episode they're like, oh, we don't want to create butterflies by stopping this truck. Like, what, you just now came from a high-speed chase where you transported out of the chase at the end. Why? That was not the most, like, that was bad writing. And I, like I said, when I thought this episode was worse, I was like, there's just like a list of bad writing here. But that's they had to do something with those two actors in the middle of this episode to delay them reuniting with Rios. And they probably should have thought to do something else. They should have thought of some other obstacle to stretch their scenes out than trying to put this ridiculous chase in the middle. It's just them being
like, you wanted them to call an Uber instead.
Yeah, I mean, I think like because I think what you get there is like, because Rios, I mean, from the get-go, like, he transports in a way he really shouldn't have, right? So things have already gone awry. He gets injured, and I think like you can plan to not cause butterflies or have these effects, but I feel like it's almost unavoidable. It would be too perfect if they didn't screw something up.
Yeah.
I mean, and the transporting out is obviously like extra, right? Because now how do they explain how this car got where it did and there are no drivers, right? Who's going to explain that, right? But I also think like you also have a scenario where they are picking up people and then just there's no records, there's no like a lot of things are already not happening in a way that they should be happening. And I feel like in the grand scheme of things, like them doing that, like, because nobody's going to want to take the blame for that shit, right? Like a car got stolen. Like, like in practical sense, like that is just going to get swept under the rug. Kids joyriding, write that shit off. Like
they didn't kill anybody.
They didn't damage any property except for the window that she neatly blew out.
I just blame it all on Rafi, being as what Nathan said, being at the 11th, so it's like, it's all there, she wanted to initiate that car chase, even though she didn't want to drive, she had to have Seven drive, which is kind of weird, in a way. And then how does Seven know how to drive so well in some ways?
I mean, she nearly crashed a lot, but yes, she did know how to drive very well. I will say this, now that they've established what the time travel rules are for this episode, as I said with Picard saying his name, it doesn't matter if they fix things. The alternate future that they came from, where it was a fascist state, that doesn't exist anymore. So that this trip
Right.
can be completely wiped out so in which case they, I don't know, make as much damage as they want to to fix things, as long as they don't as long as they don't create other issues like killing people, but the whole trip, as long as they reverse what was going to happen, what's going to happen rather, to change the timeline, it will erase their trip, right? Hopefully it'll erase their trip. So
wait,
yeah.
so that punk guy that was in the back of the bus, so they're gonna erase that whole interaction? That's like bad. It's the same guy from Star Trek 4.
Yeah, it was the same. It was the same guy from Star Trek 4. So they set it up so that it seemed like they were going to have an interaction, or like an argument. He just turned it off. So I guess he learned from. It's funny. It's funny though. Like they want to have it both ways. He couldn't have learned his lesson from Spock, because if Picard didn't go back in time, Spock didn't go back in time, because there was no Federation. So I'm not sure why he's far more polite in 2024 than he was in the 80s. Seeing as how Spock.
It's a different person. He grew up to be polite. Like, he's still like, the music, but he's just a lot more polite. Everything is reversed.
Even though he wasn't knocked out by Spock, he just happened to change. He happened to change his trajectory and be a nicer person. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He
didn't have any more colorful language anymore.
Yeah. That was a nice little Easter egg, I guess. But it also, like I said, it was kind of them trying to have their cake and eat it too.
Yes, it was.
For why his behavior is changed, because it shouldn't be changed. He should either be in a suit now, because that's a weird thing, maybe from the 80s, because a lot of people who actually dress like that in the 80s as youth are I don't know.
They're in their 50s probably. They're close to 60s.
They're in their 50s. I mean, which that guy is. He's in his 50s, right? So either he should have been in a suit, or he should have been still a jerk. But whatever.
But again, he's gonna get. But he's gonna.
Why don't you want him to grow?
Sorry, what did you say? He wanted to.
Go ahead.
He wanted to grow. He wanted to grow. So he wants to still wear punk stuff from the 80s as a 50-something, because he has to be like in his mid-50s. Yeah. So he doesn't want to grow in that way, but he wants to become a kinder, gentler person. Maybe.
I guess so.
Maybe.
Yeah. But that interaction will be all wiped out because of the timeline, It's like, it's all going to be gone. It's like, no, then what's going to happen with the guy,
Yeah.
Well, the Spock interaction will be put back. So the interaction with Spock will be put back into the timeline. So maybe he'll figure his life out because Spock put him on the right track.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's see what else happened in this episode. I'm trying to think if I missed anything here.
Rios.
What happened? Oh, the Rios stuff. Yeah. The conversation that he had with her, the doctor, was also nice. The guard was super extra. Like they wrote him to be like basically a mustache twirling villain extra. I mean,
but was he though? I mean, like when we see what actual border.
No. I'm not saying that it probably has nothing to do with reality. There are people that act like that are in reality. I mean, they just don't see themselves. They don't understand. I mean, there's some people that are angry and they know they're angry, but they don't care and they don't really have the tools to get out of that anger. But there are people that are just like lack self-awareness and are just terrible people like that. So I don't know which they were writing this guy to be, but yeah, he was awful.
But I think he had a moment though, because when he tased Rios, and I think he saw the reactions of the other people that they were getting ready to deport. He kind of paused and I don't like not to say he was going to be nicer, but I think he had a moment of
or
like maybe that was a step too
even
far.
With that
like,
guy, it was like maybe it was a step too far because I'll get in trouble, not because it was a bad thing to do. Yeah. Yeah, because even after tasing him, he was talking crap to him when he got onto when he got on the bus, when he put him on the bus. So yeah, Rios kind of blurts out everything about the future because he doesn't expect them to actually believe him. Believe it. Yeah, and as I said, now that they have established these rules specifically, that everything is going to be wiped out, Elnor might come back to life, which they said in the previous episode. Anything he says doesn't really matter. He can do whatever he wants to get out of the situation, as long as he doesn't create something that will continue into the future, even after they fix the timeline. So, yeah. Although, I was just thinking about this. Even if they do kill people, because their trip altogether will be erased, those people won't die. This is why Janeway is like, I don't like thinking you're talking about time travel. This is because it always gives me a headache.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it gets very complicated.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts? Did we miss anything?
I think we covered most of it. Oh, Q did appear at the end.
Actually, sorry. There are actually a couple of things. We went off on tangents. There are a couple of things at the end of the episode. The guy in after being convinced when he says Picard does bring him to the Watcher. And we find out that the Watcher is Laris, which is interesting and weird.
Yes, it is.
So apparently she's been shadowing him all his life, or some is the implication there, because Guinan said before he met her that Watchers look out for people by shadowing them. So like we know that she is with him in the future. So was she there on purpose?
Yeah.
Just is she obviously she's not a Romulan? She was just posing as a Romulan, because right now she's posing as a human. So there's that. And then
wait a second. So that means that can we go even further back? Like, what does it mean? Is it like any of those TNG characters? Who would be the Watcher during the TNG years? And
I don't know.
Even before then, that would be kind of weird. Is it like? That would be very, very, very weird if it was like her mom, like his mom too. Like,
maybe. So like what I will say is that like they might do something like they did in the Doctor Who episode, I think in season, I'm going to say 12, when the Doctor goes back in his time stream and they just go take old footage and put an insert person. Maybe they'll take old TNG footage and like insert her like looking around a corner, like she's always been there. Yeah.
Wow, that would be very, very mind blowing.
Yeah. So it's
like what they did, the crossover, the triple episode, DS9 and
the trouble. Yeah. They did the entire episode with it like that. So yeah, it's possible. They definitely could do. I mean, and that was back 20 years ago. So it's executing it, which shouldn't be too difficult. So yeah, that happens. Apparently, this person has the ability, or this being has the ability to take over some other people, or possess other people as well. So that was the white-eyed people that we were seeing in the trailers. And then at the end, there's just this weirdness with Q, which I'm not sure. I'm open to what you guys think about interpreting what that meant. Like, he was like, I'm not sure if he was talking to that girl or if he was talking to himself about being a coward and talking a big game. Like, was he speaking loud enough for her to hear, or was he just talking to himself and trying to hype himself up? And then at the very end, his powers don't work. So It has happened
which has
before
happened
when they
before.
have been stripped from him by the Q continuum, but I don't get a sense here that he knows why his powers are not working, because like before he knew why they weren't working, because they were stripped from him. So
is it just because he's getting old?
I mean, what is age? What is age to him or Guinan?
That's true.
They're kind of ageless.
And Picard also said, I mean, last episode that Q was not himself. Right. So he picked up that something wasn't right. And I guess Q, and so now we're seeing that. I guess, we just have to see what exactly, because I couldn't figure out what his intentions were with that young woman. Like, what was he trying to do? And what didn't happen that he wanted to happen when he snapped his fingers, right? Because she's just sitting there reading by her, like minding her own business. So I guess curious to see like what is happening.
And also there was an episode where I was getting kind of there was a TNG episode where there was a woman that became Q. So it was like I don't remember what the name of the episode. There was a TNG episode where there was a young woman who basically was Q and did not know that she was Q.
Her parents were Q. They were posing as humans.
Humans. Okay.
And they died in like a hurricane or something like that. Huh?
The continuum killed them, and the continuum killed her parents, and it was like a freak storm that they were killed by the Q continuum basically, and she was, but she's like a brilliant student, but realizes that she's Q, and she can't. He gives her a choice, like if she wants to stay human, she can't. She won't have powers.
Yeah. So when that young woman showed up at the end, I thought, oh, it's kind of like that, and maybe it is like that. I don't know. That's what I was speculating when I first saw that. I was like, oh, it's like that young woman from TNG. That he's trying to recruit. That he knows that she's a Q. Maybe she is a Q, and then he's just trying to recruit her. Maybe, who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we will see in the coming weeks, because there's obviously something wrong with Q. But we don't.
Right.
I can't speculate now what it can be. They're obviously gonna come up with something original, because based upon the previous canon, there isn't much really to go on from the Q continuum.
I disagree, because I think that there's some, because there's been in Voyager there were a ton of episodes about Q,
they travel to the
with
Q
his family
and everything.
And then there were some
with
his son, and things like that. So I don't know whether it's also because of the TNG episode or because of the Voyager episode where he had his son. They had a civil war, so it could be something along those lines. There's a lot of myriad of ways where they have kind of rehashed. They may rehash old stories, but it'll be very interesting if they do come up with a new story, though.
It doesn't look like they're very apt to rehash old stories. So when I say that I could speculate on based on previous lore, even though there isn't a lot. I mean, I think John Delancey showed up in 8 episodes across all 3 shows. But like, based upon what I know from those 8 episodes, unless the Q continuum is sick or in war again, which they did already in Voyager, I don't understand why he would be losing his power, because it doesn't seem like he understood why he was losing his power like he did when he lost his power before, when he knew it was taken away from him. So I guess they could rehash something from the past, but it doesn't look like they're trying, even with given what they did with the Guinan thing, they're trying to carve their own lane with this continuity. So they're pulling characters, but they're not going to rehash the story again. So it seems to me, but we shall see.
Borg assimilation, maybe? Who knows?
Maybe. I think that was David's speculation 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
But like the Borg seem so below the Q continuum that they would have had to assimilate something, another civilization that gave them some super advanced technology or super advanced insight or whatever to be able to assimilate the Borg. But I don't know. I can't think of who that might be because they haven't showed up yet. But they can just create a new race that they assimilated, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, the Borg Queen in the Stargazer was very sophisticated. You know, it was kind of like a much more different look than what they've seen before. So
yeah, it was definitely a different.
know.
It was definitely a different queen. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts, ideas, predictions for the next couple weeks?
So just we should all get some sleep before we watch the next episode, so we don't.
Yes, I would
yourself. But
definitely looking forward to where these threads are going to go, especially what's going on with Polaris in Q, and also Jurati and the Borg Queen. So I assume the Rios storyline is going to be wrapped up soon-ish. The Rios,
it's gonna be more mess because they have to stop a bus, right, full of armed ICE agents and
detainees. So
see how that goes without causing any.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, you've heard what we think. We are interested to hear what you guys think. So please comment down below to join the conversation, and like, and follow, and subscribe. And we will see you next time. Thanks, guys.